Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back on the back of Tottenham Hotspur being comprehensively beaten by Newcastle United by 4-0 at St James's Park. It does feel a little bit like deja vu. And you know what? You have to ask, where do you start with a game like that? If you are listening for the first time, wherever you've been, we are on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X, we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook too. And I'm delighted to say, look, we're joined by the real returning regulars to Last Word on Spurs in Lee McQueen, fresh out of Spain. Cracker's currently in Spain. You think he's attending a party where he is. We'll try and work out his audio for you shortly. And we're joined by the brilliant Patrick Tyrant on this Last Word on Spurs. For those that want to know where Cracks is, I tell you what, it's an experience in itself. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. I will just say at the very, very top of the show, for those that are unaware that listen on audio, we literally record bang after the game. So it is raw, it is emotion, it is passionate. And like I say, we don't really have a chance to really reflect and calm ourselves down a day after to react on it. So I think opinions you're going to hear are going to be quite raw. They're going to be quite passionate. They're going to be quite emotive, but they come from a good place on the back of seeing Spurs being beaten again at St James's Park comprehensively. Lee, I feel like I need to open up with you, mate. Firstly, welcome back. So sorry to bring you back in. And just to put it in perspective, Lee has literally just come, if I say 5 minutes off his holiday, he's literally just walked into this shower of, and you know the rest of it. But Spurs need to open up with you, mate. Love to have you back. Do drop out of the top four, despite Aston Villa not even kicking a ball after conceding 4 at Newcastle United. This is Spurs' worst defeat since the 6-1 at St James's Park almost a year ago. And look, I know the fact that, just to put some context behind it, Spurs are still 7 points better off compared to last season after 32 games. We know there's a progression route under Ange, and we don't get away from that. But again, such a bad day at the office, very similarly to Craven Cottage. How do you try and find some kind of perspective as to that display in such an important game to Spurs and even bigger ones on the horizon, Macca?
Well, even I cannot dress that up. Even I cannot defend what I saw today. And again, I will caveat all that by saying I was watching it on my phone in transit. So forgive me if my analysis is a little bit off today. The Blue Book definitely hasn't been updated from my side, but I'll leave Pat to sort that bit out. Well, it was absolutely shocking. Shocking performance. I think we had 2 shots on target. I'm sure we'll get into that. But I mean, do you know what? Do you know what really annoys me the most is that it was the basic rules, if you like, of football, of being a professional athlete, which is all they did, in my opinion, was they pressed us hard and they pressed us high, and they just had miles more energy, miles more effort. They've got half their team, more than half their team out. Like, I also want to say as well, because we get a lot of mixed fans in here as well, like Newcastle fans. They're fair play to Newcastle because they had our number the whole game. And I was saying at half time to you boys on the group, like, maybe they just did a quick 10, 15 minute spell on us like we do to other teams. But reflecting and watching the second half, it wasn't that. It was the whole of the game. It was the whole of the game. So look, I mean, I've always been forthright in my positivity and optimism, and that sort of stuff. Based on today's game, based on the performance, based on the outcome, it was from top to bottom a heap of shit. Sorry, I know it's not part of watershed. I'm really sorry, but it was absolutely woeful. So why? I suppose the question is, why are we putting in performances like that? Is it the up and down? Mickey van der Ven been lauded as one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. And he had a shocker today. Like, he had a shocker. 3 of the goals were basically down to VDV. The 4th goal was an unmarked header. Kulu's on his heels. No one's marking him. I mean, they had our number every single set piece. Every single set piece. Anthony Cross said it in the group, didn't he? Literally every set piece. So it's a difficult one because of the points and this, that, and the other. Look, and I'm the first one to say, but we're better off this time now, like you was alluding to at the beginning of the show, Rick. But let's have it right. Where we've been and where we are, we should have more points than that now. We should not be going to Newcastle today and getting absolutely bemiffed 4-0 like we got ripped 6-1 last season when we was in utter turmoil. That should not be happening, regardless of where we are on our journey. And we shouldn't, again, greatest respect to Fulham, and they was brilliant as well from their perspective. But we shouldn't be getting chonked away to Fulham 3-0 either. So the reality is, it's not just even about expectations. It's just highly disappointing, infuriating that we can capitulate. We were shit, mate, from top to bottom. There's no other words. But I don't think any player on that pitch will get more than and I'm probably being generous, more than a 4. There was nothing. 2 shots. I don't think we created any chance. I don't even remember. Werner, what's he doing going with his foot? He needs to be going in with his head. He scores out with his head. It's 1-0 Spurs. It's a completely different game. It's just a nightmare, mate.
Macca, thank you, mate. And again, I will make the point. He's literally just come off the back of being away for a couple of weeks and being subject to this, mate. So thank you. We love you for it. Crackers, can I just say, for those that are watching this live, it looks like Crackers is now ended up in some kind of Portaloo in Espana somewhere. It looks like a toilet which his Spurs have sent you to, mate. So we love you. We can't thank you enough as well for joining us. You know what, Cracks? I want to bring you in. Look, we've been comprehensively beaten. Some will describe that as the worst performance of the season. Lots of big issues across the team. And, we know we've got the hardest run of the season still to come. But, Cracks, I want to ask you about Ange. And, look, I think it's fair to say we always try and find a balance here on the show. We've always tried to do that in the last 7 or 8 years of doing the show. But after the game, we had a load of influx of messages. And, look, whilst there's no doubt about it, we've loved the way Ange has transformed this football club in the space of 8 or 9 months. You raised concerns, Cracks, and some of the away day performances that can we continue to play the same way and not have any variation or flexibility of tactics? And I think, just so everyone understands my point in this, I love Ange. I think he's transformed the football club. But I think, it's a lot different to playing in Japan, in Scotland, in Australia, to the Premier League. The Premier League has some of the best teams, the best coaches, the best players, the best tacticians, the best set-piece coaches. And ultimately, if you are a couple of % off it, they will work you out. And I have to say with Tottenham, there's been this element where for a while, we know we haven't been playing our ultimate maximum. That's down to a lot, I believe, of the opposition working us out. But at the same time, look, I think we all agree with Ange. It's a progression. It's a journey. But, Cracks, how concerned are you by really a lack of any tactical flexibility in this system?
Rick, afternoon, everyone, listeners and readers and viewers and everybody else. And you are right, exactly right. I am in a toilet because it's noisy chaos here. I'm down in Resort, so I have come to the toilet. I'm sat on the pan just so I can get a bit of peace and quiet, because Patrick told me off in the green room, Cracks, we can't hear you, you've got to go somewhere else. So I've gone to the toilet, and if somebody needs to go, you better pop next door, because there's another pub next door. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of light in with the shade here. And Rick, there's a lot of shade at the moment, just to try and be a bit serious, for a moment. You say Ange has transformed us. Ange has said a lot of the right things. Transformed us, I don't know. I mean, we was in an absolute pitch darkness under Conte, and if somebody lights a match, then that's welcome, isn't it? There's a flicker of light for a few moments, but what we need is a floodlight. And honestly, Rick, I'm not sure if Ange is that man. I'm really not sure if he is that man. I know that on social media, if you don't say the right things, you might well get hammered for it, absolutely hammered. But you know me, Rick, I don't care what people think. And I have to start questioning if Ange is actually that person to take us forward. Unless he changes, or unless there is some change in the personnel that we've got to be able to facilitate the way that he plays. Because, look, I want to caveat all this with Ange Postecoglou, the man, I absolutely love. I absolutely love him. He is a wonderful person. You can just tell he's a proper football person. He's a proper person away from football. But if he's not going to mix things up a little bit and change tactics a bit when needed, he's just going to get absolutely tonked week in, week out in certain games. He is absolutely going to get found out. And, you know, he's told us he's not for changing. Now, he's managed in Australia, but he managed nigh on an Australian Man City. He managed in Japan, and he managed a Japanese Man City. He went to Scotland and managed Celtic, who are kind of the Man City of Scotland. Now he comes to the Premier League. Rick, everybody, it is levels and levels above most other leagues around the world with what you've got to be, who you've got to be, how you've got to play, how you've got to change, tailor for different games. And if he's not prepared to bend and flex a little bit with how he plays, with what he's got, this is what this is what we're going to get. Because look, we lost to Wolves back in November 2-1. We got dicked at the end at home, didn't we? And after the game, Gary O'Neill came on with Sky or TNT Sport, whoever it was. He came on and he actually told everybody, not just the people in the studio, he told the general public in an interview, this is what I'd done to beat Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham. He gave the blueprint. Now, roll forward to February, he'd done exactly the same thing against us at home and won 2-1 again by doing what he said that he was, how he's going to play in November. So this is the problem I've got, Rick. I watched today on Bein Sport, and I don't know, apologies to Bein Sports, whoever it was as co-coms, and they turned around and they said, Eddie Howe today has looked through the blueprint of how you play against Tottenham and just read the manual. He's read the manual and done that today. It was like he knew exactly what everybody was going to do today, what every player would do, how we would have our set plays, our patterns of play, etc., etc. And he just set them up to counter it and wallop 4-0. So, yeah, it's tough, Rick. I don't think the club's buying Ange the players that he needs to be able to play the way he does, and Ange isn't for playing in any other way. So I think we're in trouble. I do think we're in trouble. I think we was in trouble against Sheffield United. We was in trouble against Everton. We was in trouble against Brighton. We lost twice to Wolves. We've lost today to Newcastle. I think we're in trouble. I think the writing is on the wall unless something drastic changes, and that's either personnel or Ange's philosophy. You choose which one you think it will be.
Well, Crack, so I can't thank you enough, mate, for real and honest analysis from your perspective. Look, I appreciate
do you know what, Rick? Sorry, it hurts me to say this. It absolutely hurts me. And I know I'll come off of this show and I'll open up my mentions on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I'll have absolutely stacks of abuse. But do you know what, Rick? You know me. I don't care what people have to say. I've just got to say what I think. And I think we're in trouble. I think long term we are in trouble. I think there's a lot of managers out there that could have got us a different result today. Even a narrow loss, but something different to that, because that was we just got smashed off the park. Absolutely smashed. And sorry, it hurts to say it. It really hurts to say it because I love Ange, but I just don't think he's got it in his locker to take us to where we need to go to.
Well, Cracks, as always, mate, we appreciate your honesty, mate. Thank you so much. Pat, I'm going to come over to you. Patty, look, you know, we know possession doesn't win football matches. Set pieces have to be defended. And there's an element of that game where we were clueless in attack and the same on, I've got to say, defensively. You know, it is a worry with Tottenham. But again, I have maintained this point from the start. We're at the point of, I know people hate me saying this, a project. It is a transitional season. I think for me, look, I still love what Ange brings to the table as a man, as a person. But I have made that point for me that my concern is in the defeats we've had, there's an element where we've had similar defeats and they're not being learned upon. And look, again, I love the fact he's got principles. I love the fact the man wants to stick to them. But I think the concern for me is that, when you're seeing some reoccurring themes and not being addressed, that's the worry. And I want to ask you, Pat, you'll get your thoughts on the game. But interestingly, Eric Dyer opened up on his experience working with Ange, and he actually revealed that the Australian never focuses tactical work in training. He was asked and said, look, interestingly, there isn't an emphasis on tactical work. What he does is every single training drill from Monday to Friday is drawn up to represent the way that he wants to play. Conte, I could do it blind, but that was a lot of tactical work Monday through to Friday. A lot of it was 10 versus 0 walkthroughs. You were so well drilled, it will be ingrained in you. Whereas with regards to Ange, it's more focused around the way we play. When you're watching, Pat, some of the elements of these defeats, and look, just to be very, very clear, the defeats like this have been few and far between. We've been beaten comprehensively at Fulham. We've been beaten comprehensively at Newcastle. We got beaten at home by Chelsea, although that was to 9 men. But I have to say, we are, in my opinion, still 8 months into a new project with a man that is yet to be given his full squad to work with. He's had 2 transfer windows. He's made it abundantly clear where he wants the club to be targeting next season. Pat, what do you see looking at that performance? And is there real genuine concerns with relation to the tactics, the way Spurs are being set up, and the nature of this kind of defeat?
All I can do is laugh right now, because if I don't laugh, I'll honestly cry. Like, I went into this game confident and positive, as you know, Ricky. I actually thought we would win. I'm not going to sit here and change the narrative because we got battered. I genuinely thought we'd win today. I thought the boys were put right. Yes, it's a kind of a new spine, but that 6-1 horror show last year was still, talked about throughout all week leading up to it. Ironically, it was almost like a year to the day that it happened. We thought it'd be a sliding doors moment and we would kick on from here and secure 4th. But from what I saw today, oh my God, it's actually a reality check in the worst way possible. And it's quite damning, to be honest. Very disappointing. And, I don't know. I'm trying to be positive because I don't want to sit here. It's easy to slaughter a team and the manager after a loss like that. But there's not really many positives, if I'm being honest. Like, when I look at that, there's ways to lose a football game. And we've now lost 8 games. And the losses away from home are really worrying. And if I'm being honest, this is a team that we should be beating. Man for man, we're much better than them. If you look at the amount of players that they've got out. But the difference is, and I hate to say it, and this is, again, people are not going to like this, but this is one of the reasons why I didn't want Ange Postecoglou in the summer, because I questioned his tactical ability, and people got onto me. As you saw, people went crazy, and we saw it today. And what did I say in the summer? I said in the big games in the Champions League, away from home, he got battered in every single one of them. Yeah, he played some good football here and there, but he got turned over and found out. And we're getting battered away from home against teams that we should be beating, if we're being honest. If we actually want to finish in the Champions League, Ricky, we should be beating these teams. Fulham away from home, Newcastle today, absolutely schooled. And it's not, again, you can lose a game and this and that, but we got absolutely rolled over. Go on, Ricky. Can I say
one thing to you, Pat? I just want to say one thing. You look at, and I totally agree, look, it's a Newcastle side depleted of injuries, but when you look at the Newcastle team, they've got Bruno Guimaraes in there, they've got Isak, Gordan, they've got Barnes, the front three. This was the first time this season they've been able to field that front three. Yes, maybe outside of that, I mean, Dan Burn, you'd say, again, decent Premier League centre-half. You could argue that a lot of that team is a makeshift team. But I still went into this game knowing they've got 4, 5 or 6 decent players that on their day, they can absolutely do a job on Tottenham. But I think the biggest frustration is, and to let you come back on this, Pat, that with Tottenham in the defeats we've had this season, a lot of it has been Tottenham shooting themselves in the foot rather than the opposition. And I think that is the biggest frustration that, you look at the Newcastle team there and listen, there's some decent forwards in there. Like I said,
Rick, just interact quickly on that, Rick. But that's been happening for years. Way before Ange Postecoglou, it happened under Conte, and happened under Mourinho, happened under other players, like other different men. Eric Dyer, should we blame Eric Dyer? Eric Dyer's not even at the club, but it was Eric Dyer's fault when he, put that own goal in against Newcastle when we lost 1-0 or 2-1 against him right at the end, the 2-2 with the West Ham. People giving away free kicks, Jaffa Tanganga getting sent off. Like, it happens in football. Obviously, it happens with us all the time. these silly mistakes, these are costing us massively. But equally as well, and somebody said it earlier in the comments alluding back to maybe Pat, where you're going, get you back in, and what Crackers have said about Ange is, are the players feeling this now? Because I'm actually really surprised how much we're starting to question the man. He ain't even had a season. He ain't even had a season in charge. And the comments for the people that are on audio are absolutely mental. I'll be honest with you. I do the show week in, week out with you. I absolutely love it. And there's a lot of people in these comments that I've never seen before. And they're coming out and they're saying they're asking for Ange's head. But where were they when we beat Forest the other week, or for example? The reality of the situation, everyone's raw. I am surprised that we're calling out Ange on what we were watching this time last year. But then I'm not surprised because we've just watched what we watched this time last year. Like, what has actually changed? The thing is, to go through that whole change cycle, you have to go through pain. And this is painful, massive. And we've been through so much pain as Spurs fans. We all want the same thing. But the reality is that these mistakes have been happening. Well, ever since I've been doing this pod with you, what's that, 6-7 years? Yep. I've been coming on here, I've been talking about players' mistakes every single time. And today, Van der Ven, he makes mistake after mistake. It was in his head. And who would have thought that of that individual player? You see where I'm coming from? Sorry to interrupt, Rick and Pat, but it's madness.
I want to bring Pat back in because, Pat, I mean, what I will say is, and again, I understand there's a frustration towards the manager. And look, the great thing about this show is we want honesty, we want rawness, we want people to say how they feel. There's no censor here. People can say exactly how they feel. That is what Last One on Spurs has always been there for. But I think that first season, Pat, there's always a feeling under Ange, and again, just going through his previous clubs, that he's working out really the players that are ready to be adaptable and flexible for that second season, because he said it himself. He's not here to finish fourth. He's not here just to play in the Champions League. He genuinely wants to compete for a title. There'll be people laughing, hearing me say that. There'll be people thinking I'm crazy. You know, people suggesting that when you're getting beaten like this, again, when you compare it to Fulham, to the Brightons, to the Wolves games that we've had, is there an element back to it that he's not got his players yet? Or is there a genuine concern for you that tactically he is not up to the standard when he needs to be with relation to these games? Because we saw in the opening 7 or 8 games, Pat, we've seen it throughout the season, just to be clear. We've gone away to the so-called typical traditional top 6, top 4. We've been unbeaten. We were unlucky not to beat Arsenal away from home. You know, we've been unlucky not to beat Manchester United away from home. So what is it, Pat? What is that massive concern for you?
You raised some good points, but to counter those points, it's all well and good him saying that he wants to compete and, he's not here to finish fourth. But when I look at a manager today and all I see him do on the sidelines is nothing, and we end up getting smashed by a team that we should be beating, like I say, and, I just don't really see it. And I know it's his first season and I know, it takes time, but a lot of the players there are his players. And we're not really suffering an injury crisis. We're playing 1 game a week. There's not really many mitigating factors I can turn around and say, you know what, we're kind of hard done by. Like, this is a team where, again, Ricky, with all due respect, you said that Newcastle got 5 or 6 good players on their day, but so does every Premier League player. We had 11 players out there today that on their day are very good players, including Timo Werner. I know, again, we're getting to his, the early chance, and it might be a different game if he finishes it. But when you look at the quality of the 2 teams, I'm sorry, we are better than them. And we should, you can lose any game. I'm not deluded. I'm not going to sit here and act like, we must finish this place and we deserve. No one deserves anything unless you put it all out on the pitch and leave it there. But when I see a team get smashed the way we did today, I can't really legislate anything for it. And again, tactically, we keep getting outdone. Like, the managers know what we're going to do now. Cool, have the ball, have 74%, 79% possession, and do absolutely nothing with it. Their keeper made 2 saves. One was a shot from outside from Timo Werner. I can't remember what the other one was. We didn't test them or put them under any pressure whatsoever. And I look at it and it's poor. It's poor from the manager. The manager's a guy who, at the end of the day, the sword's going to fall on the manager. And today I didn't see anything from him to make me feel comfortable in these moments.
Rick, can I just jump in there where you said with the Eric Dyer comments? Can you read those again for me, please?
Yeah, of course I can. So Dyer was asked on his experience working with Ange tactically. He said, look, interestingly, he doesn't really do any tactical work in training. What he does is every single training drill from Monday to Friday, he's drawn up to represent the way he wants to play.
Okay. So do you know what? the first thing that came into my head was a Mike Tyson quote. And he said, every fighter that I face has a plan of how they're going to fight me until I punch them in the face. And it's as simple as that. It is absolutely as simple as that. Mike Tyson, that was Mike Tyson. He said, as soon as I punch them, that's it. Their game plan's out the window and it's all over. That's an elite sportsman. So it doesn't matter what sport it is, whether it's football, boxing, anything else. If you're just working on what you're planning for and not what your opponent can do for you, you're banging trouble, Rick. You are banging trouble. And today, I think we got a Mike Tyson punch in the face, to be honest. It is really as simple as that. You know, if he's not worked this week on what maybe Newcastle can do, and that's almost an arrogance, Rick. That is an arrogance. If you've not got it to back it up, if you've not got the players to back it up, then that's arrogance. And that's how you're going to get found out 4-0 today, 3-0 away at Fulham. So, look, you know, it's as simple as that. You can't just disregard your opposition. And I know there's some people that might go, what does Eric Dyer know? But he's a lad that's been around football a long time. He's come up, you know, through the ranks out in Portugal and then in the UK. So this is a lad that's had a lot of different sort of football philosophies poured into him. Eric probably knows football better than, well, he knows football better than all of us. I don't care what you think of him as actually as a footballer. He will know football because he's learned the trade in a lot of different ways. So if he's telling you things like that, that needs to be an alarm bell. It really does. I know, as I've just said, people will disregard it and go, oh, Eric Dyer's this, Eric Dyer's that. Eric Dyer's at Bayern Munich now, by the way. Do you think they're just like giving him a wage because he's Harry Kane's mate? He's not. He has got a footballing brain. He knows football. And if he's telling you things like that, please, everybody, listen. You have to listen to people like that if they're telling you things like that.
Can I just say, Crackers, on that point, I mean, he was actually asked directly at Ange Postecoglou in his press conference before the game today about that question, about that interview with Eric Dyer. And again, a few of the people in the comments are putting it out as well. You've got to look at the context. Ange actually answered that question. And he said, it depends what you mean about tactics. We do tactical work every day. We are working tactically. I haven't watched the interview. I don't know what Eric Dyer meant. But when you're talking about tactics, we work tactically every day throughout all of our training sessions. So I think if we're going to talk about, you know, Eric Dyer, what he's saying, what Ange's saying, you've got to have both sides of the story. And he was asked directly that in the press conference, and that was Ange's response. So who knows what them two are talking about? To be fair, I mean, what's clear is Eddie Howe's clearly done his homework because they've absolutely roasted us 4-0 today, and there's no excuse for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, Lee, to go back to you? Because I haven't actually asked your opinion, Lee, in relation to the tactical element of it. I mean, look, we know you absolutely adore Ange. You love the way his philosophy is about the way he wants to play. But do you look at the concerning nature of these results we've had away from home and there are a trend, or is it down to the players? It's more than the manager? What do you see when you're looking at it?
Look, I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes tactically, as Crackers was just saying. Like, I'm not an expert, you know, when it comes to Ange. They know football better than I do. But you can only comment on what you see with your own eyes. And what you saw with your own eyes today is absolutely abysmal. Like, we rubbish, didn't let a glove on them, to use your analogy, Crackers. We got knocked out 3-4 times, hit the canvas, and then in the end it was a knockout, right? 100%. But you can't also say in the same breath, well, hang on a minute, there hasn't been progression, because there has 100% been progression. We were under Stellini doing this, that, and the other, and losing games. And, you know, you said at the top of the show, the Tonkins that we've taken this year have been what? Chelsea at home today, and Fulham, you know, in a transitional season. So I'm not trying to defend Ange. I do like Ange, by the lie. I'm loving Ange. I do love Ange. But from a tactical point of view, he's not going to change when things get hard for the first time. That's the whole point in a transitional season. Because the minute he does is the minute when the players, and there's going to be fans. But let's talk about that look down the road, because I know a lot of us like talking about them. They're brilliant, right? They're brilliant. They're having a brilliant season again. But for Arteta's first season, they were 8th and not very good. Arteta's second season, they were 8th and also not very good. And there was a lot of fans, a lot of their fans, some of them are in here now. If they're really honest with themselves, they were calling him out. They were saying, Arteta out, what's going on? But the club stuck with him. They had the plan. They had the resources. They spent the money. Whether or not this club will do that, who knows? History tells us that we won't, but we might do. But the reality is the same. The stories are the same. Klopp got absolutely hammered at Wembley by us lot, 4-1, in what could be a sliding doors moment for them. And it could be the same situation for us today. We don't know what the future holds. But look what Klopp went on to do at Liverpool. Now, loads of people will say, oh, yeah, but it's Liverpool. Here he goes. Yeah, we're not Liverpool, we're Spurs. That's part of the mentality that we have to change. And if we keep chopping and changing the manager, and I said, go and dig them out if you can be bothered. I'm sure no one can. I said that we shouldn't be burning Conte. We shouldn't have been burning Conte. We should have been sticking with the managers that we're bringing. We sacked a manager a week before a cup final, a League Cup final, who has won the most trophies in the modern era. Other than Pep, and we sacked him 6 days before cup final. We keep making these mistakes. You cannot keep doing that. So the philosophy, the contribution that Ange has made as a football club, as a turnaround of culture, the values of pushing it into a different direction has been. Anybody says that there hasn't been that sort of change, that element of change, I'm sorry, I cannot agree with that. Tactically wise, yes. There's a lot of work to do. But I don't think Ange has ever come out and said, tactically, we're sound. We know what we're doing. I don't think he's ever said that we're the finished article. And what he most definitely said is there's going to be big bumps in the road whilst we're on this journey. And today was a massive bump. But again, the reality of the situation is if we keep doing this, then I'll be very concerned. But it's only happened 2 or 3 times, like you pointed out at the beginning of the show. So, I'm still with. I'm not defending a 4-0 thrashing. Right before everyone starts jumping. If you're jumping in there now, at the end of the day, if you're jumping in there now, then you have to watch the show back from the beginning because you know my view on it. But can't keep chopping and changing managers. It does not work. And I will bring not that lot down the road, but the other lot down the road, where they've spent over £1 billion, got a new manager in, sacked him within 20 days, bought 20 games, bought a new manager in the new season, spent another 400 odd million quid of what they've done, financial fair play all over the gaff, and they're 17 points behind us lot, and we're moaning. So again, it's context because you have to get your right people, the right element, the right players, and us fans do play a part in that. But today, Rick, we were tactically inept. We were outplayed. We were outfought. We were outbattled, and we were well beaten. And we were absolute dog shit from start to finish.
We was.
Can I just jump in there with what Lee just said? I mean, if you're talking about what Mourinho done and was got wrong, and then what Conte done and was wrong, and maybe even going back to the man from Argentina and what he got wrong, then but that starts to point to maybe other issues at the club that are wrong and inherent problems that are wrong. Now, look, I know that there's certain elements of this fan base and other shows, but call this out and people don't really like. But maybe just maybe they have a point on certain issues that whoever comes in is not going to get this right. Is not going to get this right. Now, I don't like saying these things, but that there might be issues there where maybe this ownership model isn't right for this club because they keep failing manager after manager after manager. And as I said, there is elements out there on YouTube and other pods, but they may well have a point. They might put it across in a way that we don't like and puts all the fan bases back up because they don't quite get it right. But they may well have a point. But this club keeps failing managers, doesn't stick with them and doesn't go with their plan to get it right. Even if that is to go through the worst pain and have to throw a few quid at it.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Crackers, about how can we start saying Ange out or whatever now when we haven't even given him that time. The club hasn't even had enough time to foul the manager yet. Do you know what I mean? And that's why us fans have to be. We can all have our own opinions. That's of course, but we have to be patient in that. I'm trying to look at it logically. We have to be patient in that way because we haven't even
two windows.
Yeah, we've had two windows. We're the only club to do a bit of business, or one or two clubs to do a bit of business in the January window. No one else could. We've got another summer window coming up. So I just think that it is highly frustrating. I think the biggest issue when you look at today, and then you look at the season, and then you look at the bigger, wider issues. The bigger issue is what Crackers is alluding to or talking about is we are starved as a football club of success over the last 25 seasons, one League Cup in 17 years, 2 in 26, whatever it is, right? And the fact of the matter is, the fact that I'm even saying whatever it is just goes to show you, doesn't it, that we're just starved of it. So any little bump is really hard to stomach. Any little bump, because as soon as we have a bump or a battering like today, we can't just dust ourselves off and go, do you know what, don't worry, we're going to be back to normal again next week. Because actually back to normal to us is up and down, or is it Spurs or whatever you want to call it. But again, you go back to the man, the Argentina, the guy that's down the road, the Argentinian man who Crackers alluded to. His first season was up and down. Arteta's at Arsenal up and down. Even Pep's finished 8 points behind Tottenham, for crying out loud, in his first season. That's at City. Klopp finished, 63 points or whatever in his first season. So I know people don't want to look at that, but when you're striving to be the Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Man Uniteds or whatever, Chelsea's have gone by, the other big six, you have to compare in that way. So you can do what you like, right? But what I can't say that. I can't jump on Ange and go get him out because we've had a couple of bad defeats. When I know that in him, I've seen it with my own eyeballs, we can go and batter Villa 4-0 at their place when most people didn't give us a. I know I've seen it with my own eyeballs that we can play Ange ball and be unbeaten at the Emirates, go to the Etihad and get a 3-3 draw, not parking a bus, beating Liverpool at our play. So I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyeballs, as everyone else has. There's something there. It's just not coming as quickly as we want. And that's the bigger picture that's the frustration, because we want it yesterday and we deserve it. Us fans deserve it, but it's not coming yet, is it, Rick?
It isn't. I'm conscious of time. I think, guys, that the reason for the recording is we wanted to try and make this a bit of a shorter post-match Lem show, and we are going to try and do that. I'm going to come to Pat if I can. Pat, and just spoken after the game and said, look, it's a tough one to take. It's a bit raw at the moment. Credit to Newcastle. They were good. We just didn't really get a grip of the game. It felt like we let Newcastle dictate how the game was played. We never really got to grips with the game itself. We weren't able to execute any of the stuff we usually do. Credit to them, but we just have to take it. It ended up being a transition game, and a lot of that was self-inflicted by us. We weren't brave on the ball. We've been really good this year at understanding that when we have the ball, we can be a threat. Certain players are shielded away from that. When you do that, you allow the game to be played on Newcastle's terms. And, for what we said about Ange, I don't think you can disagree a lot with what you said there post-match, Pat. Would you agree with a lot of the comments there Ange just said?
Yeah, I agree with all of it. If you don't mind, Vicky, I want to go back and kind of reiterate on the convo that Lee and Crackers had, because it was a really good conversation. And going back to your point, Vicky, where you said a lot of the players aren't his. The problem with this whole theory, and I agree with Lee and Crackers, and that's why I wish we could have jumped in as it happened, but I'll address that and then address your point. The issue is that a lot of our fan base, me included, are worried that Ange won't get the backing that he needs to make it his team. And we've seen it time and time again. So, maybe, again, like, I can't go crazy, and I'm never going to be Ange out in this first season. It's insane. I think he's having a good season. When you separate the games and you like take them case by case and game by game, I think he's having a good season. So I'm going to put that there. But losses do concern me. Sometimes tactically he looks out of his depth, and I'm seeing get out tactic by managers who, if I'm being honest, I feel that he should have won over on. Maybe that's me just because I'm Tottenham and I believe, but I thought, you know, Eddie Howe's and your guys from Fulham and all of this stuff, and even other managers have kind of got the best of him, but luckily we've had a bit of quality to just get the game and turn it around. And, you know, if Daniel Levy is Daniel Levy, he says he's a Tottenham fan and he wants the team to be successful, he's going to need to spend a lot of money. Ideally, we need a really good number 6, we need a top quality number 9, and we need a better winger than Timo Werner. So realistically, you're looking to spend at least 200 million. Is he going to spend that in the summer? I don't think so. So realistically, is he going to back the manager? No. And if he doesn't back the manager, we're just going in this merry-go-round, which we've been in, where we'll be a decent team, maybe challenge for 4th or 5th, but that's not where we want to be. We want to try and actually challenge now and win stuff. And there's no more excuses. You know, the stadium's been built. COVID is over. The stadium's making so much money. We're cash rich. We see all these positive reports, but ultimately we're a football team first and foremost. And if we're not backed properly in the summer, you know, it's just going to be the same thing. So again, there's toxics that say the message that we say and they say it differently. But until things change, it's always going to be Levy out, because at the end of the day, I'm a football fan. I support Tottenham for the football and for what I see on the pitch. And ultimately, in my lifetime, I've seen 1 trophy, which is embarrassing for a club that's meant to be a big club. We hear all the stuff. Tottenham have a fantastic and rich history, but I've not seen it. Do you know what I mean? I've not seen all of these things. So that is a big concern. So like Lee says, when we have a wobble and we have a shaky moment, our fans really do start to panic, because they know that the good times are Poch times. And with all that being said, yeah, it was fantastic and we felt good, but it didn't really materialize to anything. So that is a concern. It is a big worry. Going off what Ange said today, the funny thing is, like, for the first 30 minutes, I thought we was actually really good in the game. We controlled it. We were the ones setting the tempo. We were dictating the play. And then against the run of play they scored, they were cutting to the deaf kids, and, you know, like, they were showing all of that stuff. And then they turned back and it's 2-0. I'm like, what's going on? And then after that, we were just shaky. We look really, really, really poor on crosses. I don't know what's happened, but we're so bad on crosses. And I don't know what's going on, but we seem to concede about 15 corners a game, which is crazy. Compared to other teams, we always concede so many corners. And this zonal marking stuff really needs to change, because we're just getting outdone on every corner. They're always, as in the other team, we're always first to the ball. We're always just praying that they don't get a good connection on it. They did for Schar's 4th goal. And we just always seem to be... They keep saying that Vicario's shaky on crosses. I don't think it's Vicario's fault. I just think the zonal marking is really poor. And we always allow one of their players or 2 of their players to really pin into the ground as well. We're just really bad on set pieces, and that needs to change. Like, I don't know how Ange can watch this week in and week out. I can see it. How can he not see it? We're conceding way too many chances and goals to the same thing over and over. So yeah, I don't know, man.
Rick, you know I'm in the goalkeepers union, and I've sat and watched the game today with my lad Tom. He's 16 years old, a budding goalkeeper, but he understands goalkeeping, and he keeps saying to me, why is he zonal marking? It doesn't give a goalkeeper any confidence. He said, like, Vicario's on manners all the time to allow the zones to deal with things. And Vicario, no, you stay there, you go here, you stand there, you do this, you do that. Once a ball comes into a box, that's a goalkeeper's ball. That's a goalkeeper's ball. When it comes in, especially if it comes into the 6-yard area, that's a goalkeeper's ball. And it's almost as if he's on manners not to deal with it. So my lad last night, I watched him play last night. Anything comes 6-yard box, that's his. And if you're in the way, like Peter Schmeichel, if you're in the way and I take you out as well as one of my defenders, that sounds like a you problem. So let a goalkeeper defend his 6-yard box. Just let them do it. Let players play and pick up forwards, pick up defenders, pick up whoever it is. But he doesn't do it. We go into this zonal marking. It's not working. Look how many we've conceded this season off of set pieces. Like, the club's stuck full of analysis. They're earning like ridiculous money, and they're not looking at it and going, Do you know what? We've nearly conceded as many as Sheffield United. Sheffield United on zonal set plays. Like, something's wrong. So you've got to go, hang on a minute, this isn't right. Let's have a meeting. Let's sort this out. And if you have to change things, you have to change things. But it's almost as if Postecoglou and the management team go, but if we change things, that's going to look like a weakness. But it isn't. Changing because you're getting things wrong is a strength. It is an absolute strength. The amount of times I've apologised on social media, do you know what? I've got this wrong. When Dele Alli fell off the edge of a cliff, I absolutely let him have it. I let him have it on social media. And when he came out and said, I'm struggling because of mental issues and mental health issues, I went straight on to social media and tweeted him an apology. Sorry, Dele, I didn't realise you was having these problems. Here's my apology. Because I see that as a strength. You have to sometimes go, do you know what? I've got this wrong. I'm going to apologise. I'm going to change. And I'm going to do this going forwards. It's the same principle. I know it's something completely different on social media. And Dele probably never even saw my apology. But I feel better for it. So if you're seeing something going wrong, change it. Change and say, yeah, do you know what? This isn't right. This isn't quite working. I'm going to change. I'm going to do this differently. That's all you're going to do. It's a strength. It's not a weakness. Too many people see it as a weakness to change.
Yep. No, I agree. But on this point, and we do need to go for a break. And I'm also conscious we need to just discuss. We're not going to go through the whole game. We're going to discuss Mickey van der Ven, just some of those concerning aspects of it, because we're going to obviously Arsenal in a couple of weeks' time. We're obviously not doing any more post-match shows between now and Arsenal, so we've got to squeeze that in. I'm conscious Lee has just come back from holiday. Pat, listen, for everyone, it's a Saturday afternoon, right? So I think we can all appreciate that we don't really want to be here discussing a 4-0 defeat to Newcastle, but there's certain things we have to address, and Cracker's in a loo somewhere, bless him, in Espana. God help his soul, bless his heart. But on this set-piece situation, you know, our set-piece defensive organisation is a concern. And you have to again ask that question, what exactly are we doing week to week on this? Because we actually do not have a designated set-piece specialist coach. We're relying on Millie Jedinak and Ryan Mason. We let Gianni Vale go in the summer. I can't just say on Gianni, I think there seems to be some confusion. Gianni Vale was not the defensive set-piece coach for Tottenham. Focused purely on the attacking. I've seen there's a lot coming in from different fans that seem to be suggesting that we're conceding loads of goals since Veo left. But Gianni was focused purely on an attacking aspect rather than a defensive one. So look, I think I want to make that clear. What we are going to do, we are going to just take a breath. We are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We have got an unbelievable amount of about 4,000 of you joining us live here. And again, I will reiterate this point. We do record straight after the game. So it is raw. It is passion. No, it is really emotional. And I think this is the nature of Last One on Spurs. I mean, people love the honesty. Maybe if we had a couple of days to calm down, maybe our opinions would wither to some degree. But look, I think the way the world goes, people would like to have that passionate, emotional, raw reaction. And that's exactly what you are getting here. If I can just say a quick reminder that we are sponsored by NordVPN. So for those that are, like I say, we've had this relationship going with Nord for a number of years now. We'd like to have them on board. They're really good for those that are going overseas, that are essentially looking to maybe save some money, whether that be on holidays, whether that be on travel around the world, whether that be on obviously watching football overseas. You can do that by going to nordvpn.com/LWS. I know they support a lot of our American contingent as well in watching football, whether it be travel discounts and everything that goes with that. Please check out NordVPN if you can. And like I say, I want to say a massive thank you again to Lee McQueen, to Richard Cracknell, to Patrick Tyrant for giving us their time here on a Saturday.
Rick, can I just say that I'm actually using NordVPN with a British SIM card in my phone. I'm sat on the toilet, look, because people keep saying to me, can you show me the toilet? Look, I am... hang on, let me turn this round. No, hang on, that's not right. Look, hang on, let me turn this round. Look, I am on the toilet. Look, someone said, give me a flush. There you go. Look, there's the toilet, because that's the quietest place. And I'm on NordVPN, and I'm still using like I'm still getting a service. So there you go. If that's not an advert for NordVPN, I don't know what is.
Well, Ryan's asking, can we use NordVPN to defend corners? Listen, maybe NordVPN is the way to go. Maybe that is the new set piece coach. Maybe it is. Guys, we're going to literally fly through the team for this one. Look, Spurs, for them, it was just a one change with Rodrigo Bentancur coming in for Mate Sarr. Spurs lined up with Pedro Porro Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Bentancur, Basuma, Madison Johnson, Son, Werner, with a bench of Austin Davis, Emerson Dragoshin, Højbjerg, Sarr, Lo Celso, Kulusevski, Hill. It is worth me again emphasising for Newcastle United, it was the first time this season they were able to field a front three of Gordan, Isak and Barnes in attack. And look, in relation to the way the game started, you know, Spurs, we've said the similar thing away to Fulham only a couple of weeks ago at Craven Cottage. Spurs could have arguably been 1 or 2-0 up to begin with. Timo Werner, as Lee emphasised in his introduction, really good chance for Timo Werner, decided not to go with his head, but with his foot, blasted it over the bar from close range. He then got yet another opportunity, which Sonny blocked inadvertently in the way. And you know what, again, it feels like a long time ago, the referee in the early stages, somehow Dan Burn escaped the yellow card for bringing down James Maddison on the halfway line, who ran into acres of space, and that even normally calm Ange Postecoglou absolutely lost it with him. And then a couple of minutes later, we saw a yellow card given to Van der Ven to what somewhat looked really harshly being booked, when in the opening stages, you maybe could have argued that Maddison could have got a booking. And of course, you know, the nature of the way that played out with Van der Ven receiving the booking. But Newcastle did go 1-0 up. Spurs punished for giving away the ball far up the pitch by a Newcastle counter. Udogie dispossessing Gordan, playing Isak to score. Van der Ven slipped in the process. It was too easy for Gordan. And of course, Isak putting Newcastle 1-0 up. But if I can come over to Lee to start with a familiar theme, Lee, with us on the attack, is that not only is it poor defending and school ground stuff, but we make about 100, 200 passes, Lee, and we're trying to walk the ball in the back of the net. And then one long ball, and we're 2-on-2, Lee. How can you explain that? Can you explain that?
Maybe it's that tactics you were talking about earlier in the show. I mean, yeah, the thing that was really frustrating about that scenario is that we actually was in a very good position in and around their box. I think we lost the ball and then won it back high in that same phase of play. I think, bearing in mind I was in transit and watching it on my phone, and we actually won it back. I thought, oh, go on. And then whoever the player was, I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Destiny, he just kind of slowed it down a bit and then he got robbed. And then one long ball and then they on the attack and off they go. And it's constant. That's what I was saying about the basics of football, what Eddie Howe got his team playing today, or the players executed what the manager wanted to do or whatever, and Tottenham didn't, was that high press, the pressing, moving it and get it. Whenever we've been brilliant in spurts, in games, we talked about it as 10, 15-minute spells, it's been when... at home against Brentford, we went 1-0 down, didn't we? We were shocking. We come back out in the second half. We had a 10, 12-minute spell where we were outstanding, winning the ball back high, bang, 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 went 3-1 up. Then we gifted them another goal and it's still a bit dodged. And it's been like that quite often throughout the season. And you've got to put your chances away in this league. You've got to. I mean, Werner has to score that chance. And one long ball, because we play a high line, you know, and normally Mickey Van der Ven is just gobbling them up. And today he wasn't, was he? Let's be fair. I mean, I don't want to dig him out, but he's had a couple of shockers there. Fair enough. I mean, he's been brilliant for us, but he's had a couple of shockers.
Yeah, he has been. Look, Isak had 2 brilliant shoot opportunities in the last couple of minutes in relation to that first half where, you know, quite honestly, Spurs were in a situation where, when you look at the way they concede again, Pat, come over to you, you know, 2 inside, just 2 minutes. Porro slightly under hitting a pass from right back. Gordan latched onto it, puts Van der Ven on the floor again, and all of a sudden it's 2-0. It's an absolute mess from a Spurs perspective. And, you know, you've touched upon, Pat, the concern around our defensive nature. Is this just a complete freak show from Mickey? Because Van der Ven has been, I think we can all say, up until this game, arguably the standout player of Spurs this season. There's no doubt about it. Anyone watching this guy across Europe, around the world, will be looking at Van der Ven thinking, this guy is the next big thing. He really genuinely is. He's a real top centre-back. Can we just say, Pat, it was just a bad day at the office for Mickey?
Yeah, it was the commentator's kiss of death, honestly. Like Rio Ferdinand and even Ali McCoy, they were bigging him up so much before the game. Rio said he could arguably be the best centre-back this year. All these stats about how quick he is, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes and does that. If you were watching him for the first time, you would have literally thought he was our new version of Davinson Sanchez. He was all over the gas, slipping, sliding, falling over. I don't know, honestly, like what happened to the boots? Was he wearing the wrong molds or studs or whatever? But it's uncharacteristic. But at the end of the day, it happens. And, you know, they capitalized off our mistakes. What annoyed me the most is that, like I said earlier, we were in complete control. Lee, you got it right before. It's Destiny Yadoji. He fell over weakly and kind of protested that it was a foul. It wasn't. He had to be stronger there. They robbed us 1-0. Isak 1-on-1. Very good finisher. You're going to be very hard to stop him. And obviously, when Mickey van der Ven fell over, it kind of gave him, you know, both corners to aim at. He gave the keeper the wrong eyes and slotted it in a near corner. Fantastic finish. Cool. I thought, okay, annoying, but we'll get back into it. And then the camera cut away to the kids. It cut back and Anthony Gordon's running away celebrating. I'm like, what the hell? So it's 2-0 within 2 minutes and we're just all over the gaff. And then I was thinking, oh man, this could get ugly because, you know, they scored 2 quick goals. The crowd's bang on it now. And we're just looking shell-shocked and all over the place. And again, the second one, Pedro Porro with a really poor kind of volleyed back pass into no man's land, into the danger zone that you don't want to put the ball in. And they ran onto it and scored. And it's just individual errors. Like, we work so hard. And what annoys me the most is that we have so much possession and we just keep going sideways, backwards, forward. Like, we're not really doing anything. So you're working hard to try and break them down. And then all they do is one pass and they're in, 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. And it's happening in every game now. And it's something that needs to be addressed. And Crackers, you got it right. Like, he's got to change something. We can't keep being this open in transition. We concede so many goals and so many chances. The corners is a worry, like I said before. The zonal marking is a big concern. That needs to change. Like, if I was going into Spurs today, I would sit down and say, this is what needs to change. Boom, boom. There's nothing wrong with adapting and changing. Like, if we're just going to sit and play the same way in every game, we're going to come a cropper because these are easy mistakes and they're things that can be fixed. And the season's not a write-off yet. But if we keep playing like this, I mean, God forbid, we've got much harder games on the horizon. With all due respect, Newcastle, decent team on their day, but there's much better teams that we've got to play. And if you turn up like
quickly on that as well, Pat,
yeah.
the thing is that we've been playing quite a few like low block teams. So I've been looking at this, I'm thinking, you know, maybe that passing, knackering them out, getting them in a second. But Newcastle arguably weren't really a low block team today. They played back. They didn't play 5 in possession really. And you know, maybe actually for the first 20 minutes, as away games go, you probably could say fair enough to Spurs would quieten the crowd. It's very part out.
Werner should have scored.
Twice. Exactly. As soon as they got that goal, as soon as they got themselves in front, and then they got another one straight away. Again, quite similar to us versus Forest the other week in the second half, where we got bang really quickly. Very, very difficult. We were shell-shocked, and we never really came back at all, did we? We just couldn't get a foot in the game whatsoever.
And that 30 minutes to 40 minute spell, we were very lucky not to concede again. We were well under the cosh. They had corner after corner. We were rocking. We were very shaky. And I'm looking at the manager thinking, this is where you need to do something, change it up. Or someone on the pitch needs to say something and we can kind of play it. We play the same way in every game, every time, every phase, playing out from the back, really risky passes, you know, inviting danger. And it's all well and good when it works. But sometimes you need to switch it up, man, because it's becoming so obvious. And Newcastle the ref pissed me off. Don't get me wrong. I can't blame anything on the ref, but the yellow cards that he didn't give to them.
In the opening 20 minutes, ridiculous.
Yeah, he allowed them to be really physical. They pressed us hard and physical, which is cool. I don't know how Bentancur didn't get a penalty, by the way. Like, I think it was Dan Burn. He literally kicked his shoulder. He kicked him in half. Yeah,
I agree. That's crazy. That's a free kick anywhere else.
It's 100% a penalty. It doesn't make no sense. Yeah. And then, again, Mickey van der Ven got a really cheap yellow card considering he didn't want to give one to Maddison, who blocked Anthony Gordon, and he didn't want to give one when our guys were getting tugged and pulled left, right, and centre. So he didn't have control of the game. But don't get me wrong, I can't blame the ref whatsoever on that performance. It's all of our fault.
Rick, I know you want to come back in, but just having such a good conversation just quickly. I know we want to kind of get off and whatever because it's Saturday afternoon, but it's for me the key areas is, not having them shots. And under Conte, people say we're really defensive, we were really this, we're anti-football and that sort of stuff. But I'll be honest with you, I checked the stats for even last season when Conte was still there before his run. We were on average having 7 or 8 shots on target a game. And we're not doing that under Angeball. But I thought, I don't know if I'm not having a go at Angeball. I'm just saying he's Angeball myth. I don't know, because I thought Angeball was high intensity. We never stop, high press, get in their faces, win the ball back, shoot, score, attack. We saw that from Newcastle today, did we not? We did not see that from Tottenham at all.
I know we've done this debate. I don't want to push us back into it, but again, I will say Premier League so different to any other league in the world. And look, again, we've said this before. Look, we've gone back into that debate once, so I don't want to take us back into it because we'll never get back out of it. Like Cracks' toilet, we'll never get back out. Cracks, I want to come over to you. Ange just said after the game that with relation to Mickey being caught out, I think that was a kind of symptom of the whole collective of it. I don't think there's one person that was at fault. It was about a collective. And he was asked what was he concerned most about the performance. He said, look, I'm concerned about all of it. I don't think there was an area that I don't think there was one area that cost us. I don't think there was in any part of our game that reached the levels that needs to be there for us to be able to play the games on our terms. So whether that's physical aspect, the technical, the tactical, all of it, we just never really got any sort of tempo or intensity that we needed to stop a team that's got momentum right from the start. And I want to ask you this, Cracks. We've got some big games coming up. And I actually referenced this point in the preview show of this game that Spurs do have in them a 20-minute streak where they just go absolutely missing in a game. We've got big games coming up. And my concern for me is that, sorry to bring them down the road, the Man Cities, the Liverpools that we've got to come, you cannot give a team 20-minute spell to do exactly what they want to dictate, because we aren't going to collect many points between now and the end of the season. And that's not me being reactionary. That's not me being knee-jerk. That is me being brutally honest about the Premier League, about the teams that we're going to be able to come up against and the quality they have, Cracks, right?
Rick, you can't give teams 2 minutes. Never mind 20 minutes. You cannot give teams at this level 2 minutes. So I'll go back to this thing with Ange. If he's questioning the overall, the overarching, the whole holistic thing of what's going on at Spurs and them not competing, then that doesn't come down to individual players. That comes down to what you're doing as a team. And what you're doing as a team comes down to the manager. It's as simple as that. So if he's not happy with what he's seeing as an overall team, you can't go, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and start going through 6 or 7 players. You've got to look at that and go, well, hang on, that's 6 or 7 players that are not getting it quite right here today. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not setting them up correctly to be able to do what they can do. Or, as we've alluded to at the start of the show, you replace 6 or 7 players that can do it. So everything comes down to like the bend and flex of this. Does the club bend and give him the £200 million worth of players that can do what he wants to do? Or does Postecoglou flex to be able to work with what he's got? And it is as simple as that. And, pick a winner. Like, put 20 quid on red, put 20 quid on black. Which one do you think it's going to be? Is he going to get the players? Yeah, exactly, yeah. The black or the red. Black or red. Like that is what it comes down to. So you've either got to give him the personnel to do exactly what he wants to do, or ask him to play the cards he's been dealt with. It's simple. We could be here for another 3 hours debating this, but that's what it comes down to. I know which one it's coming to, Rick. I know which one it will be. And if he does, it's going to be Postecoglou, because they're not going to buy him the players that he needs to do what he wants to do. So he's got to either flex, or else everybody's going to go, well, you know, he's not the man for it. Everybody that's done well for us as a manager has been somebody that's very flexible and been able to cut his cloth accordingly. Yol to start with, then Harry, and then Poch. 3 managers that are able to just like bend and flex and just say, okay, you're giving me chicken shit, I'll try and give you some chicken soup. It's as simple as that. Now, you know, Postecoglou's like, well, I'm going to continue trying to give you chicken soup. So let's see. It really is as simple as that. And I don't know. I don't think he gets it. I really don't think he gets that chicken soup that he craves and wants and needs. And ultimately, I think he'll just be blamed for how things have gone, and the next man comes along. That's the way I see things.
And
the cycle repeats again. Exactly. I know that sounds very, very pessimistic, but you know, football doesn't do romance in that respect. It's a harsh reality of it all. So
can I ask
let's see.
a quick question? Has Ange done enough for you guys to be backed massively in the summer, like 200, 300 million? Can you see, if he's backed, do you feel that Ange could be the guy to take us forward?
The problem is, Pat, my reference back to that would be, if not him, who? We've gone through so many different managers. You know, I think this guy deserves at least more than 2 windows to be able to give him the tools he's done. You know, the thing about what worries me about Ange is that, you know, and I don't want to deviate into another caveat, and please forgive me and try and take us off to another tangent, but when he come out and said, you know, I don't think Tottenham will ever sign a 100 million player, that really does worry me, a comment like that, because Arsenal signing Declan Rice has single-handedly not only dragged them in a title race, but kept them there and took that midfield to another level. And anybody watching Spurs at the moment, they can't tell me that Spurs do not need a genuine number 6 that actually breaks up play, counters with the ball. Because Basuma, I'm afraid, guys, Basuma is not that man. He's not that guy at the moment. Whether we'll ever be that guy, I don't know. But Spurs, for me, although we need to go and address the forward area, we do a genuine number 9. We need to go and buy ourselves an actual top-class number 6 that does that job like Declan Rice does. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm sorry to make it about them. I hate doing this. But when they signed him in the summer, I thought, oh, my God, that's a massive sign of that football club. He's a genuine top player that gives you a 7 out of 10 every single week. And no one talks about the 100 million price tag. Do you know why? Because he does his business week in, week out, and Spurs need to go and find a player similar to that kind of profile.
Rick,
and no matter what the cost is, go and get him. Go and get him.
Rick, he's exactly they are exactly the club we should be talking about, because, listen, they sit up there. They're up against Man City, that's got state wealth. They're up against Liverpool, that's a legacy club with huge amounts of fans, with a huge amount of pull for a player to come in. Arsenal, not so much, and they're up there. So look, I hate them more than as much as anybody else, because they're arch rivals. But when you put them up against Man City and they're doing what they're doing versus Man City and their state wealth, you of course you hate it, but you've also got to go, can we do what they're doing? We pull in more money a week, a month, a year than they do.
Under Poch, we did it under Poch.
Exactly that.
We spent nothing for 518 days. We had 2 title challenges. We got to a Champions League final. That lot down the road were below us for 7 seasons on the trot. Yeah, the reason why I get the ump to keep talking about it, because it's not, we can't affect what they're doing.
All I was talking about is
the model. We can talk about them as a model because we had the model and then they copied the model and now they're better than us. And that's football, that's cycle, that's life. My biggest bugbear to your question, Rick, is the to Pat's question, 200, 400 million is, I don't think any manager is going to get 200 or 300 million out of this. It's just not the way we go. I would definitely 100% back Postecoglou, But I don't. It depends what you're saying on backing. When he talks about not buying £100 million player, I don't think any manager would get £100 million player out of Spurs. I just don't think it's going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, we talk about money. Casado, he was more money than Declan Rice. It's been shocking. You've got to put context around. It's not about the price of the. Tunga Dembele was 67 million.
Yeah, it's more what I'm saying.
It's not what you spend, it's how you spend
and
it.
That's back to my point. That's what I'm saying. It's more the fact that all I wanted to make on that point is that I just think, when you identify an area of weakness, it doesn't matter to some degree, what the price of that weakness is. But if someone can go out there and
like
actually
a left-sided centre-back, as an example, Rick, like a left-sided centre-back that we needed, and then we got Mickey van der Ven, and before today's game was being lauded by the best defenders of years gone by as one of the best in Premier League. Yeah, we got that. We got him. So I mean, also a right-sided centre-back, somebody who could be absolutely brilliant. What like a World Cup winner you're talking about? Also, somebody who's a lock picker that we were crying out for, that Ange walked in and identified, we're going to buy James Maddison, who before his injury in his form was brilliant, and we was all loving it. So again, I'm not having a go at you. I'm just saying that I'm just counterbalancing. If we're having a few beers in the pub, having a conversation about it, since I'll be talking to you about it like this. But the reality is that the players that have been identified that we've needed up until this point have been got. They have.
They have. Lee,
and that's
the point is, you need to continue on this now. I agree with everything you said. Mickey
I totally agree with
40 million, fantastic. Maddison, he's been okay. Had some good spells. Obviously, he's kind of fallen off a cliff. But 40 million, it's not really. You don't need to go out and spend 100 million. I get Ricky's point. The point is, if we identify a player and he's worth 80 million, 70 million, will the hierarchy go out and get him? We identify our targets. Will Ange be backed? Realistically, we do need 200 to 300 million. For me to see this club take the next level and really challenge the top three, we're going to need to spend about that. And will we be back? That's the problem.
But Rick, the club this week have been lifting their skirt for some outside investment, haven't they? They've been talking about bringing in like more investment into the club, opening up part of like the club to be able to invest in. But that came 2 days after the announcement that a skyscraper is going to be built around the block, around the stadium, sorry. So where do you think that money's going to go? Is that going on players or is that going on skyscrapers? And it's as simple as that.
I hear you, Crack.
I know where it's going. I know exactly where it's going. They announced plans. Oh, yeah, we've got like a 37-story block that's going to be built. And then 2 days later, Daniel's speaking to the press and he ain't speaking to anybody, saying, I'm quite open to some investment coming in. Skyscrapers don't build themselves, Rick.
Yeah.
So I think this is the realities you're dealing with.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, I think the problem is, and we all know that, we could go to a completely different tangent, and what I don't want to do is kind of deviate too far off that topic, because it could be
just the board, the money, everything else. We were all on record. You and I, especially Rick, all of us were. This board sanctioned the sale of our best ever player, and the reality of the situation is that is unacceptable. If you've got ambition, if you want to go to the next levels, you can't be selling your best player. It can't be happening. Now, some people argue, well, we've been better without him and so on and so forth. But, not having shots on target. Kane was always the guy at the top of the charts, or 1 or 2 at the top of the charts, 1, 2, maybe even 3 of shots on target throughout the whole of his career as a striker. Somebody just put in the comments there, we need a proper number 9 coming into the football club. We need a proper left winger. We need a proper number 6. This is where, Pat, you're talking about 200, 300 million. I just can't see us spending that money. I just can't see it.
Look, a conversation for that. And whilst I appreciate Pat bringing it up, because, again, it's a point that needs to be raised when you, again, have performances like that, the need to identify players that can come in and improve the system. There's a genuine need for number 6. There's a genuine need for a forward. There's no doubt about that. I just want to try and close, if I can, just in relation to these comments from Ange in the vulnerability to Spurs on the counter. He said, look, we allowed him to dictate the game the way that he played. It ended up being that transition game that we all feared it could potentially be. But it seems to especially happen away from home. So it's hard to see us claw it back once it got away from us. And with regards to that second half, I think the biggest concerns now we have is that Emerson was being called back from his warm-up to come on with Pedro Porro down, which looks like to be a hamstring issue. He was actually signaling a couple of times in the first half and looking towards the bench. So we'll have to see if we'll get an update from Ange in these coming days. Second half, I'm not going to bore you too much. Obviously, Isak made it 3-0. Sonny lost the ball. And just so everybody knows that we don't try and sugarcoat on here, Sonny, you could say to some degree, was also comprehensible in relation to the first and second goal of losing the ball whilst in transition. So that is a concern. But you know what? We could sit here, and I think as Pat and Lee said earlier, we could go through every single player that didn't do their job today. It was once again, similar to Craven Cottage, an absolute poor day at the office. No one is getting away from that at all whatsoever. And, we saw the rounds of substitutions. Højbjerg, Sarr, Kulusevski replacing Bentancur and Son. Lo Celso replacing Maddison. I mean, again, there was an element of that, the third goal of Mickey van der Ven chanting is in a Davinson Sanchez in terms of what a disaster the day had been. It ended 4-0. Newcastle were threatening to score from a set piece really all afternoon, and they did it with Schar, and he left highest at head home, of course, from a header. Bad day at the office. Spurs now once again have a 2-week break to the Arsenal game, which, look, for those, listen, I think for any Spurs fan, it is the biggest game of the season. So I do want, if I can, close it on this specific question to all the guys. And just said, with relation to playing Arsenal and City, he laughed and almost kind of shrugged his shoulders in relation to, is he concerned? Is he worried? Didn't seem to be that worried. This is the problem as well, isn't it? You have 2 weeks now. We have to sit on this, and you can't even react to it. It's a really
exactly
crap
the same
feeling.
as Fulham, wasn't it? Same
Exactly
as
the same as
Fulham.
Fulham.
We had
Yeah.
the international break straight after Fulham, and we've got to have to stomach this now for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They have just sent us over. Had a bad weekend. The whole weekend's ruined for most people watching and listening. All the viewers, all the listeners, us. That means you're going to be thinking about. You're going to watch all these other teams, blow other teams away, get the ump of it, and you've got to sit on that now for 2 weeks.
Yep. I'm going to go, if I go to Cracks.
You couldn't make it up.
I'm going to go to Cracks, to Pat, to Lee, to close. Cracks, got to say, mate, firstly, over an hour and 17, mate. I'm so sorry. He's stuck in a bloody toilet in the middle of a Spaniard somewhere. On literally red and black. Not on a roulette table either. Between now and Arsenal, what needs to happen? What needs to be done?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Rick. Listen, if we play like we did today versus them, we're going to get absolutely spanked. We will get absolutely our arses handed to us on a plate. So,
you confident of a reaction? Cracks, would there be a reaction? Would there be a reaction for Arsenal, Cracks?
I think there has to be. Yeah, it's look, it's Derby Day. Form goes out the window on Derby Day. They've got a lot of pressure on their shoulders because they're going for the title. And the players should feel it. They should feel today, and they should feel that game in isolation. So look, if we come 2 weeks' time and we beat them, we'll be absolutely cock a hoop. But we've derailed their title charge. But do you know what? Spoiling other teams' seasons, that's a West Ham thing. That's other team things. That shouldn't be a Spurs thing. That's a West Ham thing, isn't it? They could end up fourth bottom every season. But if they beat us twice a season, they'll go, "Oh, that's a great season." That's a West Ham thing. That shouldn't be a Tottenham thing. That should not be a Tottenham thing. Listen, if we beat them in 2 weeks' time, I'll absolutely love it. I will love it, but it shouldn't be the thing from our season where we go, ha ha ha, we spoilt your season. We've got to be more than that, Rick. We have to be more than that. The size of this club, it has to be more than this. There's a lot of things at this club at the moment that I'm looking at and I'm just questioning. I mean, look, we've done an hour and 20 minutes, 20 minutes more than we should have done. I'm sat on a bog somewhere in Spain. Lee's just come off of a plane. You've got a party to go to. And Pat's so good looking, he's probably got 15 women he needs to date this evening. So we shouldn't be here this long. But we are. we've not even got into the issue of Sonny this evening.
I know.
Let me ask you.
Pulled a hamstring, mate. First season might be done. When you talk about that, he hobbled off with a left hamstring.
There's so much. Do you know what? If I was Postecoglou, I'd go in Monday morning and say to Daniel, if I wanted to sell Son, would you sell him? Would you put him on the market tomorrow? And if Daniel turned around and said, no, I'm not selling Son, I'd walk out the club, because at the moment he's offering us nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, but away from home, he's offering us nothing. But that's the harsh realities of it.
Crackers, is that a Son problem or a system problem? Because
I think it's a bit of both. No, I think it's a bit of both.
Problem. He playing number 9 who can't hold the ball up. He's not his strongest ability. Son's always been clinical and dangerous when he's been played in behind and he's coming off the wing and he's been played through. Playing Son as that guy that to hold up the ball and bring people into play, that's not his game. So you're essentially underutilizing one of the best finishers in world football. So that's one problem.
So as the chairman of the club, I would turn around maybe to Ange and say to him, play to his strengths then. Exactly. If your system's not working to his strengths, like I'm not selling him, Monday morning, you're gone. Because that's the harsh realities of football.
But then Ange will turn around and say, then you need to give me a proper number 9, i.e. somebody that can...
There you go.
Richarlison is always injured, and on his day, he's okay. But if we're being honest, for us to go to the next level, we do need to level up on Richarlison. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a conversation we need to have. Where was Richarlison today? Not available. So, these are the these are the conversations we need to have. But playing Son as a number 9, I'm sorry, it's not Son's fault. Of course, he didn't have a good game, but if you play any player out of position, are they really going to have their best game? Probably not.
So this all leads me back, sorry, Rick, to like little questions and things that I've posed today where everything leads back to the board and how they handle things and what they do with either the personnel to play with Ange or replace Ange and get somebody in that can play with the personnel. You see what I'm saying? Everything leads back to these, the chairman and the board. But Rick, just before I go and I actually get down on the beach and come out of a toilet, I've been sat in for an hour.
There must be a queue there waiting.
I've had a couple of bangs on the door, by the way. I just want to say that anybody that accuses this show of saying you're not allowed to speak your mind or you've got to say what the club's telling you to say and all that old nonsense, please just listen to this show. We've not screamed and shouted things, but things have been said where a lot of things have been questioned and no one's been put on manners for what they've been saying and the points they've been making. Lee's found one point of view. I had a differing point of view. Do you know what I mean? So all of that just completely negates that nonsense of like you're told what to say and what to think and what to feel, because we've all got differing views here of what's wrong with the club. So thank you very much. I'm off to the beach. Goodbye.
Crackers, thank you, mate. You're an absolute star. Pat, we're going to come around and you're going to close it with Lee. Pat, James Madison said, it's just been a really bad day. We conceded the first, and when you conceded the second so quickly after a place like here, from the kickoff, we were just so stoppy, and we went back to the keeper now, and they're going to press. You find yourself 2-0 down. You know you give yourself a mountain to climb. He said, look, I felt a 0-0. There were some decent chances for us, spaces to play. We just weren't brave enough, and I think with the ball, we were just too many safe passes, too many safe options, just not enough courage to try and play with a riskier pass in mind. It was all a bit safe, which I think is what cost us at 0-0. When you can see 2 so quickly, it's sloppy details like that has cost us. He said about rallying around Mickey. He said, look, it's one of those, you've just got to get the balance right. You know, if you make an error that costs a goal, you're the one that holds your hands up. We've struggled to we struggled to bounce back from anything this season. Let me just say that one more time. We've always found a way of bouncing back from anything. This season we've been good after conceding, but that wasn't the case with regards to this game. Pat, final thing says we've got Arsenal in 2 weeks' time. feelings as we go into another dreaded break that we didn't really want?
I can't lie. I'm usually someone that's very optimistic, and even as we spoke before, Ricky, I was really positive going into this game. I thought we would win the game today. I didn't think it'd be a comfortable game, but I thought we would have enough to win. And we absolutely got our asses handed to us, and it was a harsh reality check of essentially a team where one team came to play, the manager got the tactics right, one team was set up and ready and really pumped up and was willing to run through brick walls, and we just looked lethargic, lazy, and essentially the players looked like they didn't want to be out there. And in this level, or this in the Premier League at this level, even if you turn up and you're 1% off it, you're going to get beat. We were like 10% off it today. And so I do go into this Arsenal game worried. I know there's so many cliches, form goes out the window in the derby, every game's different, blah, blah, blah. But when I look at how we played today, I am concerned. Of course I would be. Anyone would. We got beaten 4-0 comprehensively. But I know that, again, on our day, we can be a good team. But if I go off what I saw today, and I go off what the manager, how he didn't set us up correctly and didn't really adapt to what was going on, and we're playing better teams with better managers, it is worrying. But I know I don't want to be negative and go into that game thinking like that, because every game is a clean slate and a chance to really put a marker down. But like I said, going off what I saw today, it's a big concern. Pedro Porro's out. If I'm being honest, I don't think he was good today. Will we miss him if he plays the way he did today? No, we won't. Let's be brutally honest. Ange needs to do something, because like I keep saying, Sonny playing as a number 9, he's being wasted. We really need to figure out what's going on. Timo Werner, again, we said it a couple of weeks ago here. We all said that we wouldn't keep him. Today gives you that reason why. Funny enough, the chance that Maddison created for Timo was identical to the chance he created for Son in the North London derby away at the Emirates. The difference is Son put that chance away and changed the game. Today, Werner, another miss, and it's a chance that we're ruined. And it's just the same thing over and over. I like Timo Werner, seems like a good guy, gets himself into good positions, but ultimately, if we want him to be a guy to finish chances, he's not that guy. So squad player maybe, but as a guy starting week in and week out, he's not good enough, man. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, defensively, we're all over the place today. The cross and the zonal marking stuff needs to change. There's a lot that needs to change. But we need to get our asses into gear. If we want to finish 4th, we really need to step up. And I said it earlier on Twitter or X, however you call it now. I said, if we play like this, I don't want us finishing in Champions League places. As you guys know, I've been very consistent with my theory and thoughts.
Same as you, Pat. Same as you, my man.
If we finish 4th and we finish strong, fantastic. We deserve to be there, and I'll take it. But if we're playing like this, and I said this before this game, and today's a perfect example of why I said what I said. If we're stuttering, poor performances away to Newcastle, imagine us finishing
League,
5th.
I mean,
listen, we'll get battered.
Why is there a shame, Pat? Europa League might be our level. Europa League is a great ground, and I think competition where you've got an opportunity there to play some teams that are on the up, and Europa League has become a well-respected competition. For Spurs to win that, there's an opportunity there to get back into the Champions League. That's what everybody wants. I don't want to bore everybody here. You guys know I'm a cup man. I love to see us take the cup seriously. I think European football for me, I want to see us actually go into Europe and be able to compete in Europe. I don't want to see us go out of our depth. And I mean that with all due respect, but I don't want to go down that discussion. We could be for yet another hour. I don't want to do that to you. But
you're right. And I'm the same way. I mean, if I see what I see today, 3-0 at Fulham, 4-0 away at Newcastle, imagine PSG away.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not being funny. We're just not at that level right now. If we finish strong and we finish 4th, there's an argument. If we back ourselves in the summer, then we will be better. But if it is what it is right now, no, I don't want to see us in the Champions League. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's not worth it. It's a waste of all of our time.
I can't just say, there's no harm in that. Before the season, if anyone said that Spurs would have been competing for 4th place, not many would have believed it. But look, people know the nature of these shows. We've got fans that actually come on that go to games week in and week out from the terraces. Crackers flies over from Spain to go to games to do the Legends Night. Lee is there for every home game for the away games you can get to. Pat's there for the home games, of course, as well. And I think the nature of it is that you get raw emotion on this show. You get passionate, you get honesty. We don't dress it up. There are no narratives. There are no agendas. People say how they feel. No one's being censored. And that's why I feel, for me, that's, again, not being biased. We've got, for me, the best guests that come on last one on Spurs. We've got the best show because we've got the best people out there that give you real, honest truth. And don't hide behind anything. And don't tell you things for the sake of telling you things. They're going to be honest. They're going to be real. And if you don't like that, then that's just the nature of the way this show is. I know, just to very clearly finish before I bring Lee in, we've got a lot of Australians that have joined us on the journey on Last Word on Spurs this season. And those Australians that comment a lot off the show say to us, please back Ange, please understand it's a process. what I would just quickly say to those fans is that, number one, we're so pleased and humbled that you're tuning into this show, whether that be on the audio, whether that be listening to us live every week. We genuinely do appreciate your support. But what I would say is that when you hear the likes of Crackers, Pat and Lee speak their truth, it's because they've seen what they've seen over the last 20 years, and because there's ultimately, Andy's in a line of a number of managers in the past that ultimately haven't been backed when they've been doing well. The likes of Maurizio, of Harry, of Martin Jol. And that's why there are those concerns there when you have results like this nature today, and there are those worries there as to, number one, will the manager be given the personnel he needs to take this team forward? And number two, are the ball going to allow it to happen? So I just want to address that to that specific area of fan base that, look, we're delighted to have those join us on the journey. We know you love Ange Postecoglou's football. We know you've really bought into Tottenham. We've seen that on Open to Sport as well. But I think it's really important that we make that point for those fans that are out there watching this show from that area of the world, so they understand why there is that concern. Macca, I want to close with you if I can. Before I do, Pat, mate, thank you so much. It's Saturday afternoon. As Crack said, I'm sure you've got an amazing Saturday night lined up. If Cracken's got you out here, he's made you out some kind of playboy. And said just to close it, Macca. And again, this Mac, I just say he's come off the back of a 2-weeker in Spain. He's got the tan he wanted, thank God. The last time we saw him, he was red. He was working it up.
Yeah, I'm not red anymore, thank God.
No, he's not red anymore. Macca, and said there's no point sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves. We've got another game in 2 weeks. It's all part of our growth, and sometimes growth is painful. Close it with you, Macca. How big are these 2 weeks to really get some establishment here with what's to come for the final remaining games of the season? Big games to come.
Weird he said that, because I said that earlier in the show, didn't we? So sometimes you've got to go through pain. I think the key thing is, and just going back to the alluding to the Australian fan base as well, is that, you know, we've had this pain for so many years, which is why we've fed up with it. And you've got to put it into context for these new players, for Ange and these new players and this new project, for those that hate that word, I know, but it's all new to them. But to us, it's not. We've seen this all before, and this is why it becomes so painful. Look, I'm going to finish it by saying this. Absolute rubbish today from start to finish. We have to put it right against Arsenal. I was always confident that we were going to beat Arsenal, and I'm not going to waver. But I'm not going to be deluded enough to think that we're just going to blow them away. But it's a North London derby. It is at home. We have won our last 8 out of 9 home matches as well. So we're very different at home than we are away. But we have to beat them, team. Viewers, listeners, we have to beat them. It has to be a performance where we go into that game and we get in their heads and we win that football match. If I'm Arsenal, all they've got to do is play how they've been playing all year, not let it bother them, not even worry about it being a derby, and they end up winning the football match at the end of the day. I also want to say it's quite apt, actually, that Cracks has gone out there and bought his...
There's a lovely Sue, bless her.
Lovely Sue, because I want to finish it by giving out a shout to the women's team, because they play arguably their biggest game, game in the history of Spurs women tomorrow.
We're going, by the way, Lee.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Everybody's going. It's absolutely amazing at the stadium. I just want a big shout out to Robert and all of the women, and please get over the line, make it an amazing time, and get into that Women's FA Cup final, because that will be brilliant. And I'm sure they're going to do it. I'm backing the women to do it. So best of luck for the Spurs women tomorrow.
Macca, thank you, and guys, again, thank you so much. So the lovely Sue there in the background. To say that's the master behind Mr. Cracknell, I must say.
Look, this is the brains behind Mr. Cracknell. Look, this is Susie. She's wondered why I've sat on the bog for more than an hour and a half, and she hasn't even cooked.
Can I just say, again, look, this is the nature of this show, the people that you get on there, the characters you get on this show. I want to say a massive thank you, Cracks. Thank you, mate, for giving an hour and a half of your time in Spain. Love you as always. Macca, go and enjoy, mate, your first day back in London, England. Sorry, mate. We love you.
No, all good, mate. All good. It is what it is. Spurs ruin the weekends, don't they?
I'm just glad we recorded on Saturday afternoon, not Saturday night. Can I just say? Patty, thank you, mate. Always a pleasure. And look, this is the 8. Listen, everyone who's been to online, it's the A team. It's not easy. Look, it's the hardest thing coming on here on the back of a defeat to try and give some optimism. But I know people love the therapy. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. To Sanila that's joined in, to DDMK, to Ilya, to User, to Briscoe here that's coming with comments. We appreciate it. We really, really do. Sanila, thank you so much. Guys, look, we have been the last one on Spurs. thank you so much for your support. We are going to be back with you during this break for Tottenham with some feature shows for what that might do to us. But look, from Lee, from Crackers, from Pat, we've been the last word on Spurs. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Try not to let it destroy your weekend. We know Spurs are a massive part of all of our lives, but there are bigger things out there. There really, really is. Look, from Lee, from Crackers, from Pat, from myself, we've been the last word on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well. We'll be back soon. And as always, come on you Spurs.